This show is sponsored by my new business, MA Capital. I had success in my previous business acquiring companies before I exited earlier in the year. MA Capital is set up to support business owners on that journey, whether they want to sell now or they want to set up for a profitable exit later in the future. If this has piqued your interest and you'd like to work with me, head over to macapital.co.uk. Adam, thanks so much for coming on, mate. You have been running HubSpoke Media for 8, nearly 9 years, and you're a chartered marketer, and not many people get to say that.
No.
You're really proud of your team here at HubSpoke, but before we get into that, take me back. Guys, just a quick one. Over 75% of our listeners aren't subscribed, so if you are enjoying this, please show some support by liking, commenting, or subscribing wherever you're watching the podcast. It'll allow us to keep getting on amazing guests, and it's massively appreciated. Back to the show.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me. Very, very nice to be invited. Chartered marketer. So how I came to be in this position is 8.5 years ago. Actually, 8 3/4 years ago. However we look at it, I was working at Dalton Borough Council in the sports development team and the Dolphin Centre and delivering projects and doing things there. And what actually happened is a year previous to that, I had been trying to work out what I was going to do with myself, basically, because local government funding for things like sport and physical activity were actually really quite grim in terms of the outlook, in terms of government budgets and things like this. And I was walking to the corner shop to get some milk. We had guests over. And as I was walking to the corner shop, I had a moment where I was like, marketing is the bit that I'm enjoying of my job. Like, cause I was like, if the only options you had, you could either move another council and work for another facility, you could go and work for another sort of, essentially a public government-funded organisation. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely adored my time working at the council. I was really proud to work there. I was really proud to be involved with the Dolphin Centre. But I could kind of see my days were numbered. So that 8 3/4 years ago that I talked about, I actually got pulled into a meeting on my own and they told me that I was going to be made redundant. That was 2 weeks before I passed my marketing diploma, which I've been doing in secret.
Really?
Yeah, self-funded.
Is it expensive?
Yeah, it was a couple of grand.
Yeah.
My wife was amazing, supported me with that as well. You know, like together, like you got to both buy into it, right?
Yeah.
You know, but it was that walk to the shop, you know, the year previous where I was like, right, what do I do? And then I investigated, like, where do I go to pursue marketing and then what do I do? And the reason why it was marketing is the more I was working in sport, the less I was actually working doing the doing. I was more working at a computer and I'd be like, here's a project we need to run, and I'd have to run the project, get staff, do all the risk assessments, all that sort of stuff, but then actually get people to attend. And it was that bit working with the comms team that got me interested. So I went and did my research and I found out, I asked someone and they said, Chartered Institute of Marketing is where you need to be. Never heard of it in my life, right? Never heard of it in my life. And I went down and I looked at, they're like the, I don't know, like not a governing body, but an official body for marketing. They're the standard, they're the chartered agency, I suppose, for the marketing industry. And I looked into it and I was like, wow, well, this all sounds great. And I thought, right, I'm going to find a provider. So you had to find a provider. I found a Spa Professional Academy in Pontefract. And I rung the chap and said, you know, what do I need to do this? What level? Decided that a level 6, which is straight into the basically final year of uni, would be a good idea. Distance learning, having, I bit off a bit more than I could chew, if I'm being honest. And I'd also had child number 1 land. So child number 1 lands, I enroll myself on Chartered Institute of Marketing course, do my professional marketing
diploma. Employed as well at the time.
Yeah, I was working full time.
Yeah.
So I did that. And the first one was working January to March, then an exam, 3-hour exam. Absolutely nerve-wracking. Strategic marketing. The next one was then coursework due for the July. And then there was a gap for the summer, August. And then you had like a run September, December. And then as I was about to qualify in the February after that, that's when they were like, yeah, you're going to lose your job. I was like, oh. But they were like, but we'll confirm it in June 21st. On June 21st, very specifically. I was like, great, that's the due date of child number 2. Thank you. So we'll confirm it then. And then you'll lose your job at the end of August, basically. So I found myself in this position of wanting to expand my knowledge and do it, to suddenly having a decision being made where I don't have a job. And I was looking at jobs, I was looking at recruitment agencies and this, that, and the other. And I get it. I didn't have a job title. It was a marketing officer. I was a sports development officer, the sports development manager, whatever. And I get it how it looked, but I was delivering projects and managing things. So I was getting offered like level 2 apprenticeships. I was like, I've just qualified a level 6. I don't need to go back and do an apprenticeship. Also, I had the bills to pay with the family and stuff. So I was kind of umming and ahhing what I did. Anyway, a long story short, I've got a little yellow book that my mum got me, cunning plans and bright ideas. And that was my first business plan. And I've still got the book now, and I go in every now and then and update it in terms of what we're doing. And I went to an event which Tedco were at, who were based here in Business Central. And I spoke to Mark, and he was like, sounds like you got it all sorted out. What's holding you back? And then that was when I realised all you got to do is register on Companies House. Did it, paid my 13 quid. Walked back into sports development the day after, and bearing in mind I was dealing with 6-month redundancy run where people are going, what are you going to do? You've got a baby on the way. How are you going to pay your mortgage? How are you going to do this? So I walked in, I was like, I'm now a company director, which was met with laughter. But essentially, I resigned myself to set up on my own, and then some part-time work came in as well as marketing officer for an organisation called ModeShift. So the start was like probably the most chaotic start you could have to setting up a business, if I'm being honest, when I look back on it now.
Yeah, with the kids as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I can only, obviously, I've got a little one at the moment, and wow.
Yeah, and it wasn't that I chose. I mean, my wife, God bless her, she's like, she just went along with it, But my mission, first one, was how can I keep my wife on maternity leave for the same amount of time as the other child? Because it's not something you can defer. Your maternity leave is then. So the first year, we were small. We did $3,000 turnover in the year. And that is just a reflection of, I did some client websites helping people out and this, that, and the other. But I then got the opportunity, luckily, where through ModeShift, another colleague I was working with, he also had some project year work come on. And he went, do you want to manage this project? And I was like, yes, please. Like, it just eased the burden. So year one of my business was not your traditional, I'm a trendsetter, look at me. In some ways, I kind of felt like a bit of a fraud.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I was basically working 4 days a week, employed, and then the rest of my time I'd be doing HubSpoke. But I was actively working on HubSpoke behind the scenes. I just couldn't work on it as much as I needed to. But the priority was mortgage, food, maternity leave. It had to be. So that's how HubSpoke started. But
and then what year was that?
That was 2016.
Yeah.
So I did the Chartered Institute of Marketing. I was aware that they had a chartered marketer status. And I was looking at it, and there's like, normally it takes 5 years to get it at the time. I was like, oh God, right, I want to try and get that. So what you got to do is do your CPD stuff. And I think this is a lot of stuff people don't see in business. So I went into it and started doing all my extra learning and logging it and doing this. Anyway, I managed to get it at 3 years because I changed the ruling, fortunately. So I managed to get that chartered. But I really hung my hat on that, partly because of the experience I had with working, trying to go through recruitment agencies and being offered level 2. It was like I needed that validation is what I felt like. Whereas I knew what the vision I wanted, and the vision with HubSpoke was always going to be embrace visual media, so photography, videography, and use that effectively to market people's business, led by the media. The issue is when you set up, you can't afford the cameras. You can't one of the cameras are on my next $4,000. Yeah. You can't afford all the camera gear, and you've kind of got to feel your way into it, right? Mm. Not if you've got loads, if you've just had a young family and this, that, and the other, you don't have cash to splash.
Yeah.
So it kind of started in a very non-romantically awesome way in terms of life's just a bit hard right now, and I need to just kind of figure this out. Whereas I think everyone likes to hear the story of I set up a business, I was turning over so many figures and this, that, and the other. I'll be honest, I felt like, what am I doing here? That it was hard. Year 2, still early days, obviously, with the family. And the project management work I had, the project kept getting extended, which was a blessing, and I think, because I was like, oh, well, I need to try and crack on. So year 2 sort of pursued that, obviously, because we were tied into the project, wanted to deliver on it. But then that project finished, and then I started doing more for HubSpoke. And then another project came available, and they're like, do you want to take the project? And I was like, no, actually, I'd love to. I could do it, but I want to try and focus on HubSpoke. Mm. And then I continued working basically part-time with ModeShift as a marketing officer. And then 3 days a week was my HubSpoke time. and I was doing consultancy work. I was consulting as a business operations manager for an organisation and stuff like that. So my start is not a textbook start to business. In many ways, I'd say don't start a business when you have a young family.
Yeah.
Like it's hard work, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. What is marketing? How would you sum it up?
Marketing to me is everything. Okay, so it doesn't matter if I've got the shiniest leaflet in the world and it grabs your attention. If you walk in, let's say I'm a hotel, right? So I've got a nice shiny leaflet with an offer. That's all marketing. You know, a promotional piece. You might have a, buy 2 meals for the price of one, or get a free drink with something, or whatever, or get 3 nights for the price of 2, not the other way around. But if you walk into the hotel and then your experience on reception is someone like, what do you want? Kind of like a really negative experience. All the marketing goes out the window, because marketing isn't just the glossy flyer. Marketing isn't just the leaflet. It isn't just the social media post. It isn't just the influencer post that you see. It's the whole experience of it. That's what it is to me anyway.
Yeah.
So,
the whole customer journey.
The whole customer journey,
And
then it's like, how was your trip? Did you have a good time? Could you leave us a review? Here's maybe an offer to get you back in, or here's some ideas for the next season. You might go, I want to book there. So marketing, I had it once described by a client as, I don't understand all this fluffy stuff. Marketing is the fluffy stuff, but it's also the meat on the bones that underpins your business. So for me, it's so important to have it right from, the outward appearance that we're all so conscious of, especially on social media, putting out that right message and putting out that right presentation. But if you actually get there and the experience isn't right, it doesn't work. And I've had businesses that I've worked with going, right, I understand what you're wanting. You understand what you want social media. I understand you want some photos. But what's the ultimate outcome? What's the foundation? Have you actually sorted your product? So I'll ask questions like, how does someone buy your thing? How do they engage with you? How regularly would you anticipate? And the reason why I ask the question is I'm kind of making my own assessment to go, are their foundations ready? So if you had the foundations of a house and they weren't built properly, and then you build the rest of the house on top of it, it all comes crashing down. There's a property one for you. Yeah. But and I know it sounds basic, but it's so true. And as I see it in businesses all over, you've seen the trade, the builder, professional building services, and the van's rusty and falling apart. You can write words and it's great, but what are you actually saying is probably what, for me, marketing is about what you're actually saying.
Yeah.
And it's more than just words, cosmetics, glossy leaflets, in my view.
Do you still use things in your degree to this day?
All the time. I mean, so my first degree was sport and exercise science.
Okay.
I'll be honest, I'm not using that in my day-to-day life. When I was a gym instructor and when I was doing various things and that, yes, I was. But obviously I've moved fields. However, what I have brought from those previous jobs was experience of, you might be engaging people that in exercise that didn't want to exercise in this. But when I went in to do my marketing qualification, what was interesting is I thought, marketing, right, it's all sort of glossy, flyers, materials, social, all looks a bit shiny, doesn't it, marketing? Mm-hmm. The first textbook was absolutely massive. It's like your Yellow Pages. And that was strategic marketing. What you actually cover in your degree all the time is like business studies in marketing. It's not just, in fact, it doesn't tell you how to use Photoshop. It doesn't tell you how to use Canva or Premiere Pro or any of the sort of marketing tools that you would use. What a degree with marketing does is gets you to understand how businesses work, different models of business, touches on leadership in terms of structure and how it is. And then it looks at how marketing plays its role within a business. Mm-hmm. So that's why you'll see often when people are advertising for operations managers and stuff, or business development managers, you'll often see marketing is one of those degrees that is usually applicable, because actually you do a really intensive business studies course. Or at least I thought it was. People might disagree, but it was. You were doing SWOT analysis, you were doing pestle analysis, you were breaking down businesses. I had to do a strategic marketing plan for one of my assignments.
Do you remember what that was?
Yeah, well, I actually used my mum's business at the time.
Nice.
So my mum used to work at the council. She lost her job, and she set up a social enterprise offering employability skills for young people who may be sort of slightly more removed from the jobs market through either learning disability or might have special educational needs. So mum would place them at the shop, give them training on how to run it, and they essentially, it was like a reseller, kind of bring your clothes in, donate the clothes, and then they would offer them, you know, like they call it charity clothing, but it wasn't charity. They were social enterprise, and all the profits get reinvested back into running it. So my mum had some really good success with that, and I used that as the basis to then sort of develop my coursework throughout the period. So. And I was involved with that over the years, you know, and there's a good example when my mum was doing that, and even just watching her, because what I will touch on is, whilst the marketing degree was very good at business studies in terms of the theory behind it, my issue has always been who teaches you how to actually run a business, like you come through the education system and you leave. And then you might go to university like I did, and then you go and get a job, and then you go, right, I'm going to get a marketing qualification. But then I was going to set a business, and running a business is an entirely separate set of skills. Yeah. And I'm like, okay. And the problem is each business is so different. Like my life circumstances were, you know, if I'd gone in and gone, right, I'm going to set up a business with a young family and another one on the way, and they'd probably go, don't do that yet. You know, like it was quite bizarre, really, like looking back at it now. At the time, it was just what I was doing. But no one gave you the skills in business. So what was good for me was seeing my mum do that with her business. And I remember we were doing market stalls in Newcastle. So we had all the young people up there. We were doing market stalls. They were selling various things and this, that, and the other. And it's torrential downpour. So I ran to the pound shop. I went to my mum, give me a load of petty cash. Ran to the pound shop and bought a load of umbrellas. And then gave them all the kids, and then we sold them for £2.
Class.
Yeah, well, you know, like that is not a money making exercise. What I'm saying is, it was a good lesson in business for the young people to go. We sold out of them as well, by the way, because it came from nowhere. It's torrential. I went and grabbed these umbrellas, and we cleared a lot. People were just grabbing them, like we couldn't sell them fast enough because it was torrential downpour.
It's supply and demand.
Supply and demand. Yeah, so that day it was a good lesson in supply and demand, and it was great. What I equally love about business is that. Like that for me was fun. That for me was enjoyable. That for me is such a basic example, but it kind of epitomises what it's all about for me in terms of. And they were going, "Can we do that? Because what are we paying for?" I'm like, "Well, we've brought them to the location. We've offered a service essentially. You know, they weren't within reach. We've brought them within reach, and then we've resold them. And they're willing to sell them and buy them. There we go. It's cost to sell, and away you go. So like little things like that I was involved with my mum's business. It's kind of given me a little idea, and I spent a lot of time watching her and seeing what she did and asking questions. But in truth, no idea. Absolutely no idea.
Yeah.
And I've got no problem owning up to that at the start, because none of us have any idea at the start in terms of anything.
No.
And you've got to learn it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So one of my biggest gripes in business to begin with was no one actually teaches you how to do it. Like I was looking at trading names. I was like, how does a trading name work? You got your company name and then trading name. You got this. So I'd use things like the Federation of Small Business. And they had a legal helpline and stuff like that.
Pretty good
really
class,
good. Like they've been fantastic, and they've got policies available and stuff like this. So if anyone's going, they've got a modern slavery thing, and I'm like, well, at the moment it's just me, but that people would want to see a modern slavery policy. You know, I'm like, oh, right, okay. So then things like Federation of Small Business would help me with that. So yeah, it was very all over the place, as you can probably imagine, kind of setting up.
You know what? I think probably more people will actually be in that position than not.
Yeah,
you know
but I don't think it's talked about, do you? Because everyone wants to see how you're doing, how's the success, how, you know, like, I think, oh, you're an entrepreneur. Like, that's what people started to say to me. And I was like, well, no, no, I'm not. I'm just setting up a business and trying to find my way with it, actually. I wouldn't say I'm an entrepreneur.
I remember when I told my dad that I was going to leave my accountancy role to start up my own business, and he was petrified.
Did he?
Yeah, absolutely petrified.
And what made you do that then? So what was the build-up?
Because I'd always wanted to have my own business, quote unquote. Like you said, didn't know what it looked like. Didn't know what it felt.
I always wanted my own business.
Didn't know what it felt like.
Yeah.
Didn't know what that actually meant. But the pandemic provided an opportunity where it's like, I think I heard something in COVID where it's like, if you want to be an entrepreneur and you're not using this like 2, 3, 4 weeks on furlough, then you're probably never going to be. So I just took that as like, you know, the ultimatum, like do it now or don't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was why. Would you advise someone to get a marketing degree? If you want to start their own business, I think that's it.
I would say if it's something that they're interested in, yes. I'm a big believer in, like, people are only going to do what they want to kind of do. Now, they might do things if they see, you know, if they want to do it because they know they'll get the benefit, then yeah, I think they will. Like, do I think they'll benefit from it? Yes, 100%. Will they come out of it at the end and understand all the cameras that are rolling today and all the no, not at all. And what emerged with me, and I did not anticipate this, is, so I always talk about day one of my business when I'd finished at the council. I'd started like the business in May. Didn't know anything about company years or anything, but I registered it there, and it was like, and I was getting a letter about corporation tax like 2 weeks later. I'm going, what's this? Anyway, I finished my job at the end of August. Then I remember sitting at my kitchen table at home. My wife had gone to work. Where's my wife? Yeah, so child was there. No, she was next door. And I think she'd gone out. That was it. I was in the house on my own, basically. She'd gone out with our newborn. And I remember opening my laptop and kind of going, right, I'm running it. I'm running a business. Like, honestly. And I was like, well, no one's going to find me here. And I was like, I don't know how to use Photoshop. I'd used various iterations of Photoshop, and I'll be honest, I've got a background in sort of IT growing up. So when I was younger, I lend myself to IT and technology. I know it's a strength of mine in terms of I wanted a gaming PC when I was growing up. Mum and Dad were like, if you want a gaming PC, you have to get a job. Mum was like, you got to get a job anyway when you're 16. Like, not a full-time job, just a part-time job, and you got to do it. She went, I did it. So I went and got one at 15. Go like, see, told you sort of thing. But then I realised I was saving up for this gaming machine. And then I realised if I built it myself, I could basically spend half the money and get twice the computer than just buying a computer. So I was like, great, I'm going to do that. Did I know how to build computers? No. Did I know how to run a business? No. I've never let that sort of stop me. And this is pre-YouTube. That's how old the story, the computer thing is. So, you know, with friends and stuff that were doing it, I built a gaming PC. That was one of the most valuable things that I could have done, actually, because, you know, you remove the case off the side of a computer, you're looking at all these parts going, what do they all do? Well, I knew all that, and I could get away with it. And then it was like, what's a boot drive? How do I set the BIOS? How do I do? So I started learning those things. And I always had an interest in technology growing up, which lends itself really well to marketing. What I'd say is, do I recommend people to do a marketing qualification? I do. I think it's brilliant. That or a business one. But it depends on what stage they're at. If they want to learn how to set up a business from dry, I think that's where the mentorship thing really comes into it. But I wasn't in the position to look at mentorship and this, that, and the other, because you got to try and feel it your way. So I'd say, if you're trying to set up a business, if there was somewhere where you could go to a mentor, maybe your money would be well spent going to a person who's done it, going, how do you do this? How should I set this up? What's corporation tax? Yeah, like those things. If you're looking at someone who's wanting to develop a business and systems of work, because it depends what business it is. I mean, at first, all that people seem to tell me when we're doing it is, did you know most businesses shut down within 5 years?
Yeah.
Did you have that told parroted at you?
Yeah, I think that's why everyone's scared of doing it. Like, especially my dad, he was like, you know, what are you doing? Why would you want to do that? Like, most businesses fail within 5 years. Yeah,
isn't it like 80% of businesses fail or something like that? Yeah. And I was like, but I know the answer to that question. I think you do as well. Well, I know you know the answer to that question, but I think it's not a case of, in this thing, going 8 years, don't get me wrong, there's been times where I've gone, I could do without this. Like, this is hard. Like, this is hard work. The question is, I think, in business is, how many times are you willing to go, yes, keep going?
The resilience has got
to be the resilience, because it is hard. I'm not even going to pretend it's easy. And then I'll go on a few other challenges that I'm facing now in terms of what we're doing. But like, in terms of the reason why I think businesses fail, and I've discussed this with my mum, like, it's because it's hard graft. It is like, and it's not just hard graft as in, you got to work hard. It's like all encompassing. Phone, I work with lots of other business owners.
Yeah.
they work on their business around the clock. I try and put barriers in place to make sure that I'm working at the right times for me. Does that stop someone last week texted me at 7:30? It wasn't you. Texted me at 7:30 on a Sunday morning? Nope.
Yeah.
What can I do? And I've got methods and things that I put in place with that. So I get it why they're doing it, but everyone seemed to love parroting the whole, do you know most businesses fail? I'm like, thanks. Thanks for your support. Yes, everyone keeps telling me. And I found that societally really interesting why people say that. Like,
So my thoughts on getting a business or marketing degree, I would advise, if someone was to ask me, should I do it, I would advise them no.
yeah,
Because I feel like they would learn a lot more if they just shot themselves into it in
Yeah.
terms of go and work for an entrepreneur or go and get an apprenticeship doing it
yeah.
or do it yourself.
Actually, saying that, yes, I totally agree with the apprenticeship route.
And yeah, I think that's
I'll
probably
work with somebody.
I think that's probably the most stablest.
Yeah.
That's the word, route. The most stable route. But I think with that stability comes a little bit of comfort as well. You know, if you really want to achieve something, you've got to have that blanket pulled from you.
100%.
Where you've like, I've got to learn this and it's got to be a priority. And you'll have been in the exact same position where you've got mortgage bills to pay. I bet you learned a lot faster than you would if, you know,
Yeah.
you had some sort of stability around you.
Yeah, exactly. Like, say, I think the example to use, I see this with friends. Some people go, oh, I'm not really enjoying my job. Like, they're working in the job and they might go, I'm not really enjoying it. They're very successful at what they do and fantastic people. But I can see, like, sometimes they're just, because the longer you work, you generally move up through the positions of what you're doing and you start getting paid a bit more money and this, that and the other. And then now I get them often going, I'm quite jealous that you run your own business. I'm like, well, yeah, there's two sides to that.
Yeah.
And they go, I'd love to do that. The problem is they've got that comfort and security. And a lot of the stuff that I did, YouTube was my biggest friend. So to come back to that about the marketing degree, yes, I got that piece of paper. I felt I needed that for validation due to I'd been working in sport and exercise and leisure and doing that. I felt I needed something to validate.
Yeah, like a mindset thing.
Yeah, probably. But also I think it was an ambition thing as well. Because I think if I'd come at it the other way, I've always felt that I need to have a good understanding of the subject matter and then to be able to talk about it and be able to show that I've got that. I'm not saying that people need a qualification to run a business necessarily. Would they benefit from a marketing degree? Yes, but they don't have to do it at the start. I'd agree with that. For me, it was about, no, I am I'm changing career into marketing. And when I end up doing sports marketing down the line, brilliant. But for now, I'm changing career in marketing. I need a qualification in marketing. That, for me, feels like the right route. And that was something I could do while working full-time. So do you know you're talking about comfort? Yes, I had the comfort of that full-time wage. But I'm kind of going, well, I can do that while I'm working and then do it. Now, other people might have launched a business. Now, in truth, I think the issue is running a business. People go, I want to set one up. You could set one up in your own time. So instead of doing my degree during work, like around work, I could have set up the business then and started doing things. But my choice was to do the qualification. The issue then becomes so imagine if I didn't get told I was being made redundant. So I get my marketing qualification. I don't actually know. I'd be looking for stuff. I was going to be looking for stuff anyway. I would have one day set up a business, but I don't think it would have been there and then because I had a young family on the way, correct?
Exactly,
Yeah. So in the end I went, right, I'm going for it. The problem you have is if you're having it as a side hustle, when do you take that step? And I had this a few years ago where I was working on a contract where the contract were like we delivered the contract in full and they were like, we'd like to offer you a job. Here's the salary. Would you like to come and work? We'd love. You could still do the HubSpot stuff.
Was this
still
recently,
work.
did you say?
A few years ago now.
4
or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
You could still do in fact, it was before lockdown. Mm-hmm. You could still do, 5 years ago. You could still do the HubSpot stuff.
Yeah.
But we love working with you and we'd love to do it. And I was very thankful, really. It was really kind. And I'm equally looking at this sort of salary dangling there. But I was like, until I do HubSpoke fully full time, as in 5 days a week, I wonder what I did. So in the same week, what I did was I went, thank you, but no thank you. I still want to work with you in terms of consultancy stuff if there's ever that opportunity, but I know that you're looking at this and that's cool. We still work with them this day. So I was like, thank you, but no thank you. I need to go and do this for me. And at the same time, I handed in my notice on my part-time job as well.
Yeah.
So I went from having a part-time job and then being offered like more work to going no to all of it. Talk about comfort, because I could have gone the comfortable route, but it didn't sit with me.
I think you've got to have a bit of delusion as well to think.
Oh, very delusional.
You've got to be having it. I fully was.
I could have. That was there for me. That was there for me to go and do. And actually, I went no, and I got rid of the part-time work as well, and went fully self-employed in what I was doing.
It makes no sense.
I was terrified. Yeah, it makes absolute no sense. I think that was maybe 2018 that happened, and then obviously in 2019.
I think that's where I've just written down there. Marketing is different to entrepreneurship and business ownership, because
100%.
entrepreneurship and wanting to be a business owner is where that delusion comes from, I guess.
Yeah.
I think marketing is just a standalone skill, but I think, the sort of...
Marketing's a tool in the box.
Yeah.
But marketing's something that you got to go kind of like, right, now I'm doing marketing. How does my customer see this? I think that's the key thing for me. So what's my customer experience? So how do they purchase? What's our contact points?
Yeah.
How are we speaking to them? When we answer the phone, how are we answering the phone? If they've gone cold on us, when are we following them up? And that's a bit of a sales overlap, because marketing and sales, they are different, but they do overlap.
What's more important? That's one of the questions I've got down.
What's more important, marketing or sales? Do you know what? This is something I wrestle with myself all the time. Because I do question myself at times, should I be doing sales training? They are different. I think, for me, sales can get you over the line in terms of conversion and things like that. But marketing, for me, there's a few key roles it plays. One's validation. So it doesn't matter if you had a salesperson doing it. If you haven't got your website sorted with your web copy, it's full of spelling mistakes and the experience is rubbish, they're probably not going to buy from you. So that's where sales is kind of reliant on the marketing to be in place so they can then facilitate the sale. So I wouldn't necessarily say one's more important than the other, but I'd say they back each other up. Sometimes you need the marketing to convert the sale, and sometimes you need the sales to convert the marketing. And that's not me trying to say both answers, but what I'm saying is they sit so closely to each other. In the early days, I had to learn quickly what people thought marketing was as well. They'd think I'd be a sales rep. I'm like cold calling people, sell, sell, sell. I was like, that's not what we're doing. We're trying to build brand, tell stories, give people ideas on, inform people, educate people, entertain people. In terms of social media, it might be something like build brand. Yeah. Like if I say, Christmas is a few months away, not to date the episode, but what's the advert that pops in your head if I talk about Christmas?
Coca-Cola.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, right. Why does it pop in your head? What?
Because you've seen it that many times.
Yeah, but what's the thing that pops in your head? What's the visual thing?
I think it being on the telly and the jingle, the graphics of the Santa and the red and
and what's all that on?
Vibe. Telly?
A truck. yeah. Sorry, I mean, so what I'm saying is, it's not a bottle of Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Do you see what I'm saying? So they're selling their drink, but we don't think of the drink. We think of Santa on the side of the red truck with the light. I can picture it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're thinking about a lorry, essentially, for Coca-Cola.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So that to me is what brand is. If I said to you what colour's Virgin, like Richard
Red.
Yeah. Like, Cadbury's, what colour?
Be purple.
Yeah, they're purple. Like that marketing encompasses that as well, and sort of telling stories. I've got the holidays are coming in my head. But that to me is what sort of marketing is.
Yeah.
Whereas if I was selling it, it'd be like, are you thirsty? What do you look for in a drink? Do you want something fizzy and cold? Like, I know there's the whole sell me this pen sort of thing, but it's like, there is an element of qualified leads that you've got to qualify in the first place. Marketing can help you qualify the lead, so then sales can pick up and get it over the line. That's how I sort of view the relation between them.
Yeah, and I think there's definitely a crossover. I hear some people say they're the same thing, but I can understand why they are different as well. What I find interesting is the psychology of it, especially in like copywriting.
Yeah.
You know, how to hook the reader or the listener.
It's not all Chat GPT. Can I just say that?
Yeah.
That's what I get asked all the time.
I absolutely hate when I see that now.
If you ever see marketing copy that says elevate something,
unlock.
Yeah, right. It's been generated in Chat GPT. I've been talking about this the other day. We had a job application come in that said, "I am resolute in whatever it is that we're offering." So yes, we don't just use Chat GPT.
I like, just on that point is when I give it a prompt, there could be an argument that I'm not prompting it correctly, but let's say if I ask it to write me some copy, it comes up with that unlock the success or something. And you see that all over now, and I actually hate when I see it. But when I sit down and think of it and write it myself, and then I put the full script in and say, improve this, it does improve it. But I have to first write it all out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, but that's the difference. But the difference, and this is what I'd say, this is why we have a job as in HubSpoke. So we run social media for people. We can do anything from, just to cover that. We can do just literally, someone went, we've got to do a charity check handover, we want a photo. So I'm literally going to pop down, get some photos, job done. That's it. Some people go run our social media, some people go run all our marketing, some people go, oh, we need to do a TV advert, did that, so on and so forth. But on the Chat GPT element, the difference is you've still had to take the time. So it can improve your work, totally agree, and that's great. But the fact is, you haven't gone generate my content. You've actually fed it some real stuff. Yeah. And it's not that it isn't a valid tool. I kind of see it as just like a calculator. How often do you do your maths in your head when you're doing business stuff? Do you type it up on your calculator?
Depends how complex it is.
Exactly. Do you see what I mean? But no one's going, hey, you can't use a calculator. At school, when you had exams, it was like non-calculator exam, of course. And I'm not saying that people should be using it for everything, but there are things that you can do. You can feed it information, but it's reliant on you making the effort in the first place. Yeah. And I think effective marketing, because I get it where people go, why should I book a social media contract with you when I could just go to Chat GPT? Yeah. And I'm like, does Chat GPT
what question?
Know you? Yeah, well, but it's a good question that we do face. Like, why shouldn't I just generate? And I'm like, the problem is, if you're putting the information in, like you say there, it's about being relevant. It's about knowing. And if I had to promote what you did, for example, I'm not just going, hey, buy this thing with Matty. Like, buy this, sell. Like, no. Would you read that on social media? Nah. But when I went, here's an interesting story, kind of like we're on the podcast today, we're telling stories, we're talking about stuff, we're learning about each other, we're sharing knowledge. People go, that might be useful. And they do that. So the way I look at it, you got to educate people. So you could provide some insight, provide some education. Community, you could just be celebrating. So tonight I'm going to an event which is the Stronger Communities Award. Someone we nominated is up for an award. I didn't know it was nominating someone. I get invited. Brilliant. But they'd be like, what a great job they've done. Yeah, there's a bit of community. Yeah. Expertise. Here's my knowledge in marketing. Yeah. So very quickly, you're not just going, buy our social media services. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's like, did you know the latest trends on TikTok? Yeah. Did you know why you should use TikTok? Did you know why maybe TikTok's not for you in this line of business and you maybe should use LinkedIn? Did you know, there's all that sort of stuff. You
mentioned stories there and how powerful they are for selling, I guess. Did you learn that in your degree, or is that something you've picked up?
A good question. No, not degree.
Because that's my point. That's probably one of the most important things about marketing. Yeah. Don't just say buy my stuff. Actually, this is the way to do it. Tell stories.
Holidays are coming. Yeah, it is. You're right.
So I think that's what. Yeah, that's what.
That is what marketing. But you could be telling a story about the service that you offer. You could be telling a story about someone who's worked with you. You could be telling a story about the budget announcement from the government. You could be telling a story about. So it's not just a case of. And it's not making things up. You can actually really go. I think people, and the reason why we have a job doing social media is people sit down and go, oh, what do I write? And they often lean to, oh, I need to do social media, buy this, and you'll just see a load of buy. And at first I'll have the friends when they launch the Facebook page or whatever go, yeah, I like it. But then the challenge often goes, I'm not reaching the other people that I need to actually speak to. And I'm like, but is Facebook the right audience? Like, Facebook is not the best audience for us. We're a B2B marketing company. Yeah. People follow us, people engage with it. We're on there, and I can do Facebook advertising off that, but it's not our lead. You know, Instagram is great. LinkedIn, brilliant, but you've got to use it in the right way.
Instagram's good for B2B.
Yeah. So I think of, well, it is and it isn't. So if you're not there and you're not present, then no one's going to see you. But in my view, Instagram is good for B2B because let's go to the Facebook analogy. So you've got your Facebook profile, I've got my Facebook profile. I can add you as a friend. I set up a company page that sits up here, and I'm an admin on there, and I post to there, but that only posts to the followers. I might then share it, but Facebook doesn't share it to all your followers, as you know. Now, you may be a business owner, you might not be, but it depends on what you're going on Facebook for, really, as well. Whereas Instagram, the direct dialogue is often very difficult as well, I find. So I can't follow you as my page necessarily and go like that, or it's very clunky. You can do page interaction, it's just not the same. Instagram, one account.
Yeah.
HubSpot Media follows you. We've suddenly got that direct connection. So you can post and I can like that. So it could be a company profile or a person profile. All right, algorithms play the thing, but it's a direct connection in terms of being able to interact with each other, being able to look at hashtags. So looking at local hashtags. I think everyone thinks, or at least early on, social media is something you've got to keep the social part of it in there. So sell doesn't work, as I've said, but telling stories. But equally, what's wrong with saying this looks really good on somebody else's post? Being genuine.
Yeah.
You know, what Instagram does allow you to do is allows you that direct audience with the person you're trying to speak to. So I can literally comment on your post saying, this was great. You'd see that, you know, you can build following that way. People still do unfollow strategies. Forget the unfollow bit, just do the follow. Like, it's these vanity metrics that we see. And again, I actually find, so we work with clients of all different walks of life. I actually find doing a B2B marketing thing, it's quite tricky. You're marketing. It's like Inception. Yeah. So, and we did some agricultural work where I went and took some pictures of the farmer and I had this cracking photograph of a Jersey cow. That is not relevant to half the audiences. You work in property, for example, you'll be like, what is there a cow on the thing? But it's a cool photo.
Mm-hmm. Grabs the attention.
It grabs the attention, yeah. But then they'll be like, why is there a cow on there? It's like, well, this is actually one of the photos we've took. So it's a tricky world, but I'd say Instagram for me is great for B2B. But you've got to be like engaging both ways. It's not just a carte blanche, sell, post, forum.
I read about the game of 300 the other day, which is every day spend 100 minutes creating content. That could be scripting it out, creating it, recording it, editing it, posting it. So 100 minutes doing that. And then 100 minutes engaging with the people who have engaged with your post.
Yeah.
And then 100 minutes identifying and engaging with people who are, say, a cold audience. And apparently this is the best way to get customers on social media because, you know, you're not selling, you know, you're creating content which you've thought about. And if you do it through stories, people will engage. Off the back of that engagement, you then start building social, proper relationships with them. And then, you know, the final 100 minutes would be spent identifying and commenting on people saying, you know, this is really good and building actual community and relationships.
It's like I think that's a great way of looking at it. And I think the challenge people will have, the word consistency is one of my favourite words.
Yeah.
And that's in business, social media, whatever, it applies to everything. Consistency. Consistency in social media is what we offer in terms of supporting our clients. So people need...
That's a good point, actually, isn't it? Because,
It's hard.
Yeah,
It's hard to commit there. So the reason why people like to use us, because they could post themselves.
Yeah.
They might not have the same ideas in terms of the content, or they might not be able to take the photographs we take and this, that, and the other. But consistency. And they can be dealing with a meeting, or a computer's broken, they've got to go get it fixed. Like, you know, the deals that you're dealing with, the issues. The difference is we can consistently be doing that. But what I'd say is, if anyone's going to do the social media, they need to be consistent. That's consistency in the brand outlook, consistency in the tone of voice, how they're talking to people. But then that needs to be backed up in terms of with genuine, like being genuine on social. So, you know, you can consistently comment on everybody, but if you're not being genuine, they're just going to... It's like, do you get the LinkedIn request where you looked at it and you go...
Yeah, you do,
Yeah, so you go, okay, yeah, something, it'll be like sales for a certain online software, something or other, or something, yeah? And you go, okay. And you go, normally I ignore. And then the last few weeks I felt a bit weak, and I went, I'm going to accept. And I know this guy is then going to DM me. Hit accept. Hey, I thought I would reach out, and where's the genuine?
Yeah.
They're consistently doing it because they're blatantly doing it to everyone on the platform. They then get removed as a connection with me because I'm like, there's no point. There's no point. Is there a point in me being on LinkedIn? Yes. Everybody I meet, I'm always trying to add them on LinkedIn, go, hey, it was really good to meet you. Not just, we'd get round the table and, you know, throw some ideas out. So the problem is with socials, you're wrestling with that as well. But the problem is you've got to think, well, I don't want to be dropping it into someone's inbox. If that's what they're competing with, the chances are it's going to be minimised. So consistency, but being genuine. I'd agree. I'd agree with what you said about the 100 minutes.
Yeah, and I think there's another framework as well. Instead of jumping straight into the DMs, like the posts for a week, and then after you've liked the post, comment on the posts for a week, and then hopefully they will have noticed you, who you are. They'll have seen that you've actually given them some value by, you know, taking the time to comment on the post, ultimately increasing their engagement and stuff like that. And then
I always liken it to being in a pub or cafe or whatever, where you go at the bar, someone stood there, all right, mate, how are you doing? That's your first interaction. Next week you might go in there, hey mate, how are you doing? Oh, I like your jumper, your phone, your watch, I don't know. This is, you know, here's a positive compliment.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to ask you a question. Tell me, where did you get that wallet? Where did you get that thing? Where, you know, what's that beer like? Yeah. Like, you're drinking that beer, I'm having this beer. What's that like? Oh, look, you've just had an interaction that's genuine and doing it. Mm-hmm. Then, obviously, you might get to the week after talking. I think the problem is in the digital, that's what it used to be like. I think the problem is the digital world, it's all immediate and this, that, and the other, and we're all a million miles an hour.
Have you, obviously, you've seen that change, but do you think it's been a gradual thing, or can you say like it really took a shift at this point?
2011, I think it was. I was at the council, and I remember I think an advert went out, or maybe it was a bit before, so I forget, roughly around then, and it was like it was like social media person exec. I was like, what? Like, and to the younger audience listening, they'll be like, what are you on about? Yeah, it's normal. Like, it was not normal. And I remember having the chat in the office, people going, hang on a minute, someone's going to go on Facebook every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, YouTube only came out in 2007, 6. Like, so they were like, someone's going to go on Facebook. What's that? I remember having that discussion. What? I think part of the problem is, and people have done well, like look at the people that do well and have done things and see what sort of content. I guarantee they're not just saying buy this, buy this, buy this. Or if they are saying buy this, buy this, buy this, they've built the brand to a point where, you know, like Nike, they have people running, doing exercise and doing it, and it's like, oh yeah, and they're wearing these shoes, or oh yeah, and they're wearing these. They don't just have a video focusing on the footwear necessarily, although they've done some like that where it's different settings and it spins around and it's all a bit different, but that's stand out. So it's still early days for social media in terms of what we're doing. In terms of, it's been like the Wild Wild West in terms of suddenly we needed social media things. Then, you know, TikTok, look how massive that was. That was called Musical.ly a few years ago. So the key moment for me was when I first started seeing jobs advertising a social media exec. You're like, huh? What's that about? And then, because we're like, well, Facebook, just people like putting pictures of the sandwiches on, or the cats, or whatever, and how we use it. But then Facebook, for me, like, I see it is still so valuable. I mean, it gets a bit of a rough time in terms of people saying, oh, you need to be on TikTok, you need to be doing Reels. If you've got an engaged audience on Facebook, for me, it's still the best channel that you see. Not for someone like me in my business, but, if you're a small business owner that sells, like, I don't know, sweets, for example, that's a great place. Putting like, here's a recipe coming up this week. But you're not just going, buy these sweets. You go, look what we're making. Look what we're doing. How great do these look? Look at this new stock. Look at this. Look at, you're sort of showing people what it is. Here's behind the scenes of us processing an order. Here's a picture of Colin messing about in the shop, having a good time. You're entertaining people. So I think that for me was the start of it, but people didn't know what to do. Then, as with all things, marketers are very good at ruining things. Yeah. So they ruined post, spam, mail. So how many flyers you got through your door? Marketers are brilliant. We ruined post.
Do you think there's still a place for that? Direct
in the right circumstance. I got a good example that I'll share with you actually. Another one that they ruined was the telephone. How many cold calls do you get? Yeah, so we ruined that. Yeah. Email, what a great system. Yeah, we've ruined that because how many emails do you get on a daily basis? How many on your personal one? How many emails do you get that are actually something that you need to action on a daily basis?
I don't think I get any more personal one now.
Yeah,
it's just all full of spam.
Yeah, and then social media. How many? But for me, it makes it all the more easier in the sense of all you got to do is the opposite. I don't mean don't email people, but if it's sales if email is really good for conversion, if you've got someone who's engaged in what you're doing and how you're doing it and all of this, then it's brilliant.
And it's free.
But does your service work that way? What information are you going to give them? If it is a genuine discount, get it to them. But what's your proposition? Don't be vague. Don't just email for the sake of emailing. Like, ideally, for me, email is great for offering discounts, offers. Some people might go, hey, I've got limited space for this thing. You're telling them that there's finite, and don't say it's limited space when it isn't. Like, just be genuine. Yeah. But do you see what I'm saying? There's a way in which you can employ it and use it. So I think part of the problem is the marketing industry's gone nuts with digital media and what we're doing. Defining moment was that 2011 moment where we then went on there. Back on your leaflets and flyers, I heard one example. I didn't know the person, but it was on a course I was doing. And it was a lady who offered ironing services. She'd go around. You could give her your clothes. She'd go and iron them for you and bring them back.
I need her number.
Yeah, well, what she did was she went round, a letter dropped. She wrote down, like, on a piece of paper like you got in front of you, wrote down her details. She scrunched up the paper into a ball and put it through a letterbox. What do you do if you pick up a ball of paper?
Exactly.
Right. And the people would unroll the ball of paper and it says, do your clothes look like this? If you don't want them to, call me.
Yeah.
I offer ironing services.
Yeah.
And it worked.
I think what people, as well, just on that point, she's called out the pain point there straight away. If we talk about the psychology, so the person's pain point would be the clothes do look like that and they don't like it. But if she'd have said, hi, I'm X, I have an ironing service, I'm the best ironer, I'm the fast ironer, I'm the fastest ironer, probably wouldn't have had an as good an effect, I don't think.
Yeah, exactly. And I think and again, coming into what marketing is, it's things like that. Like, it can be really simple. Yes, you can have complicated campaigns where you're delivering stuff. You're going, right, we're going to do a TV ad, we're going to back it up with paid ads on socials, we're going to do that. A lot of the companies we come across are like, what do you want to spend on your ads? Like, some will go, yeah, we've got budget, and some will go, nah. Or some will go, what's the least we can spend? And you're like, what success are we going to have for that? I'm like, well, it's hard because if you're not giving me much budget to work with, because in the case of Facebook advertising, they take the ads. Great platform. You can really target people done the right way. But you can't convert necessarily on a small budget. And I always go to them, how much is the widget that we're selling? over a certain amount. I mean, I think the minimum spends £5 a day on Facebook. So I'm like, how much is the widget? And we need to probably invest, let's start with 150 quid as a start point, try and actually get some conversion off there and work from there. So it's interesting when you're at the lower end of business and people don't have loads of advertising budget to do it. And I think in reality, a lot of people are in that boat where they don't necessarily want to give their money out to Facebook. And the challenge is, the whole thing of how do you get leads, how do you do this? Now, what I'm seeing, a lot of businesses offering a great service, doing it. There might be
an example of a business that, not a specific business, but what sector they're in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, what for the low end? Well,
Yeah.
for the higher end campaign, I did some TV advertising with Darlington College. It's fantastic. On Sky TV, we've produced 3 adverts. We've delivered about 10 campaigns, like various things, so the various 3 ads, and it's been brilliant in terms of the results and the reach and all of that. The problem is not everyone has that end of budget. So I think the issue for me is if people are not wanting to do it, what sort of industry are they in? It could be a tradie, who run a business with a couple of people, and they're wanting to do it and get it out there. Now, trades may be a bad example actually, because people go, "Oh well, I'm busy, so I'm not doing it." But my example is you should be working on your next lead project, whatever, and sustaining it. I think part of the problem I face is people go, they're doing it themselves. They're fighting so much for the revenue, trying to get lead gen to come in. Socials are great. It does work. It builds your profile over time. But the problem is until you start actually putting your money into some investment in terms of advertising and putting outdoor ads, it can be quite challenging in terms of, sometimes we'll get a client who's just started and they'll go, how many sales are you going to get me? And I'm gone, you've got no followers because you're brand new, got no track record. We're going to work with you to tell your story and build your profile. Part of our job in my first instance is helping that conversion process, reassurance. Like with a website, I'm like, people go, I don't need a website. And I'm like, right, but where are people going to look to validate you are who you say you are, and you're not going to rip them off, or you're doing a proper job, or they can see some work. So in the early days, it's kind of slowly catch your monkey type thing, where you've got to do a bit of work and then show it. That's what I'd be saying to them. If you want to then do some advertising, I'd only say you only start paying for advertisement on that £5 a day, and you can get good reach, providing you actually target it, not just hit boost. If you just boost it, the money just gets taken off you very quickly. And you need to think about the area, who you're trying to reach. And this is where working with a company like ourselves, for example, that helps, because we know what demographics to put in and look. Not that people can't find it. They can do it themselves if they want to. But then there's like retargeting and stuff that you can do off the back. So
which is interesting, isn't it? I think that's where it starts getting really powerful, doesn't it?
So if you hit them with if you have a Facebook pixel on your website and they land on your page and have a look, you can then retarget them against the Facebook pixel that have done it. But you've got to have so many audience. The problem is they'll go, until you've got enough people hitting your website, Facebook are going to go, we're not going to advertise to them. So you need to get so much. So that means at the top end, you need to actually, it's like your sales funnel.
Put money into it.
You need to put some money in at the top to get some visibility.
Yeah, I've heard £50 a day minimum now.
Yep, I wouldn't be surprised.
£50 a day is what I've been told.
Yeah. And I've got people who, in fairness, we ran a wasp nest campaign for a pest controller a few years ago. We started on Google Ads. And we were like, we're 10x in the ad spend. Then the next year happened, and all the other pest control companies started doing it because it went well. So I took it on Facebook and played a brand game in terms of signs of a wasp nest. There's the difference there. So Google is search intent. Someone's looking, they're in that purchasing position where they need someone to sort this wasp nest out. Whereas, and I'm like, marketing pest control is a tricky thing. Like, it's essentially eradicating things. Now, the company I work with, they signed up to all the correct accreditations and things like that, which is reassuring for me in terms of being ethical and making sure we're doing the right thing. But then it was like, right, signs of wasp nest. This is what wasp nest looks like. So we've ran that campaign, and we essentially produced the same results, but on half the cost. So we like 20. It was like the same ad spend, but we like 20x'd it on that.
On Facebook.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but that was like a brand game because I said to him, I'm not sure how this is going to go in truth because I'll always speak. I went, I think it'll work, but you don't know until you do it. And it's the same with business until you do it. Anyway, it does work. The difference is with Facebook, you've then got to, you've got to monitor the campaign. People comment, people jump on things. You might have to hide comments, delete comments, this, that, and the other. We've seen it. We've done some kind of social, political type stuff. We're doing a campaign start this year in London, and we were getting absolutely. It was kind of like it's one of those algorithmic things. The organic content was getting absolutely engaged with, but it's actually being smashed because people didn't agree with it. Our job was to deliver the campaign. I had to even register with Facebook to do all of my political ID stuff. Like I had to do all that. It was interesting. But the thing is, what's happening is the more people were smashing it, the more TikTok were showing it to people. So the reach was phenomenal. So do you know when they say there's no such thing as bad PR?
Publicity.
Yeah, bad publicity. There's a case in point because the more people were engaging with it, the more people and there were people that were being positive as well, but the lion's share was negative. But the campaign achieved what we set out to achieve for the client, and they were happy at the end of the day. But yeah, that was. I do feel for the political marketers. You're seeing like the Trump stuff and our election
noticed
stuff.
that loads on TikTok.
Yeah,
the like Trump and Harris. It's more so bad mouthing. The other candidate.
All the time.
It's like it's a video of Kamala Harris and how bad she is, but on Donald Trump's account, and then the same how bad Donald Trump is on Kamala Harris.
And I think the Americans do it in their own way, which I mean I've seen some of the TV ads they run. It's the same, and I can't believe that they do that. But I think marketing for that. What I'd say to a small business, though, to bring it back to that, is it's about consistency, being genuine, and actually putting some stuff out. Social media is a great medium to do it. What will happen is you go, I'm going to launch a small business. You get all your friends and family to like it. Let's say you get 50 likes on your first post. You'll then get 35 on your. And by the way, these ratios pretty much stick. You can look through, like when people, hey, I'm launching a business. It'll be like, I don't know, roughly proportionally. Say 50, 35. Then it'll be like 14, and then it'll be 3.
Yeah.
And then they'll be going, I'm not getting any reach, and I don't know what to do, and I don't know what to post, and I haven't got any work yet to like show any case because I've just launched. It's a really tough time for people on social media. And all the meanwhile, everyone's going, do you know your business? Majority of businesses shut in 5 years. Like, you're like, oh my word, what is going on? It's a really difficult thing for people. But I think learning on the job is a great way of doing it. I think marketing stuff does help you. I think for me, it's more about aspiration. I think the position I find myself in now as a business owner is massively different to 3 years ago, 5 years ago. And in fact, since I doubled down on going, right, I'm going to go full-time self-employed, I don't know how this is going to go. What I just found is I just had more time to work on it, which is such a simple thing to say, but I've always followed my kind of gut. I've learned to follow my gut with kind of trying to balance out the logic, I suppose. But then it was like, right, how do we grow? How do we grow? How do we do this? How do I have this business now to support other people? What do I want this business to be? And this is the beauty of being a business owner. No one dictates that answer to you. The business can be what you want.
Yeah, just on that point there, what I've noticed as well, a business is often the business owner's imagination. Like that's how it looks, that's how it operates, that's what type of business it is. Normally comes from, and it might sound obvious, but it comes from the business owner's imagination, doesn't it? But you could have two so companies in the same industry run by two different people, both look totally different because they're based on the business owner's image. I found that really interesting.
The other thing that I had to learn, that's a great point, because as you bring people in, how does your company adapt? So I remember first employee, here to help out with social media. Right, can I have access to the accounts? And I'm like, yes. Like, here's the keys. Like gritted teeth, kind of like, yeah. Like that first step of letting someone in to something that people have been telling you, don't you know it'll break and this, that, and the other, and you spent so much time looking after it. It's a really hard thing to manage, but you've got to let go. And in fact, we've got Adam producing the podcast today, end of his 3rd week, and he's sat because we got him in. We trained him, of course we have, but it's got trust. You've got to give trust. Like as you grow, you've got to and empower your employees, because otherwise, if they're stood waiting for you to answer every single question, A, it's not practical at all. B, they're probably not going to enjoy it very much. And C, you're making your life so much harder. It defeats the object of actually getting people into help.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a tricky thing to do, isn't it? I remember, so when I hired my first employee, what was going through my mind is, what level do I hire them at? Because that's going to be reflected in the salary, and that's going to be reflected in the the profitability of the business or the sustainability of the business. So it's like, do you get them in at an apprentice level? Do you get them in at sort of a like an entry level, or do you go like senior? And with my first hire, I sort of went at the higher, and I sacked them after 3 days.
Did you?
Yeah, I got them in.
I was about to go, how did that work out?
Yeah, I sacked them after 3 days. I just let them go because I just knew straight away, wow, I'm paying them this salary. And then, so after that, I actually went down the apprenticeship route.
What was your experience with apprentices?
That's a good question. I'd say
apprenticeships are something that are close actually to me. Not for any reason. I've had apprentices.
I went through the apprenticeship route in my career, and I would say, I think young people, especially who you can, let's say, mold, or you can pass your ideas down to them. I think if someone, it's like, I don't know. I don't think there's no right or wrong answer, is there, in terms of which do you go for? I think you've got to do it to your situation. Senior people can come in and you'd hope for them to hit the ground running, where apprenticeships, can be more the longer play. I had a pretty good experience, although they did only last sort of 18 months, but that's because they wanted to do something else, which was fair enough. Yeah, but that was the biggest challenge I found in business. Was I actually really enjoyed, I got to grips with the social media marketing, the customer acquisition, getting customers, telling stories and stuff like that. I got to grips with pretty easily, and that's the bit I enjoy as well. It's like the operations and the recruitment, which I found really difficult. Yeah. Because I tell you what I found difficult. I didn't like being employed. Ultimately, that's why I left. So I was like, how can I bring someone in? How can I employ someone?
Yeah.
And expect them to be like enjoying it when I didn't enjoy being employed. So what I'd done then is give them too much flexibility, where they pretty much took the piss, and then it just didn't work. Stuff wasn't getting done.
I think equally though, when it's your thing and you're like, oh. Because then people start going, you're the boss. And it's like, like my kids are always like, Daddy, are you the boss? I'm like, no, actually, every client I work with is the boss.
Yeah.
Really, that's how I view it. Yeah. Like every client I work with, I'm in charge of my business, of course I am. But what I'm saying is, my business is here to serve my clients and to work with it. And it's like, I went self-employed so I can have, 20 bosses instead of one. It's kind of the way that I pitch it. But I think it's easy to kind of go, right, I've got people here. I think what you need to do with staffing is you kind of go, right, how do we work? What's our way of working? And I had an apprentice that's still now fully employed next door. Been going, and it's brilliant. And but I had to put the time in. What I find frustrating in general business industry is people go, we'll get an apprentice, it'll be cheap labour. I hate that idea. I only ever went down the route, and that's why I kind of delayed a little bit at the start to get an apprentice. In fact, I did the apprenticeship at 21. Anyway, delayed the start of the apprenticeship to make sure that I was then going, okay, it feels right in terms of the growth that we're going to do, so that I could support that person should they want to stay on at the end. Because I was like, I'm never going down this route to go, right, you're now out the door. I wanted to be able to offer them. Also, put a bit of a fire under my backside to go, right, you need to support this person when they get to the end of the job. So you need to be increasing the revenue so you've got their salary to pay when they do it.
The positive pressure.
Yeah, which isn't even for me. Like, it's not intrinsic. Like, yeah, all right, I get the benefit of having a member of staff and stuff, but I was like, no, that was like a moral thing for me, where I was like, I want to go down that route. People might go, that's wrong, but the way I live and work and feel, I was like, no, this has got to be meaningful. It's got to be proper, because I appreciate the work that they put in. And I think that mentality potentially like feeds back into the workforce, and they hopefully see that you've got their back and you want to look after them. And I think that then pays it back in the sense of, you know, they'll work hard, they'll do what's best for the client, making sure that we're serving our clients rather than serving ourselves. If that makes sense.
It was a big surprise getting my first employee in, because all of a sudden getting asked 100 questions a day.
Yeah, that's hard, isn't it?
You're trying to offload a role that you don't enjoy, but now you're actually consumed by it. So then you feel like, shit, right, processes, systems and procedures.
Yep.
So that's when you sort of come into that stage of business ownership, isn't it? You know?
100%. And I think that's sort of the gradual transition, particularly over the last 3 years that I've been working on. And then I think in my mindset, what was hilarious was I was like always in fear that it was going to fail. Am I going to make it? Am I going to do it? But then you kind of get to the point where you go, you're doing it. You're 8 years in. Like now, I'm 8 years in. I had this realization earlier, but you know, let's say I was 5 years in.
Just a quick question there, then, Adam. So, you know, your business, is that, would you call it, is it got, I know the podcast obviously got recurring revenue in, but has the marketing business got recurring revenue in? It has?
Yeah. So people
you still felt it, because that provided like a lot of security for me, because the management
but
model.
My contract lengths weren't long enough. Because social media is really tricky. We run social media, there's recurrent revenue. I made a move to go, right, we're doing 12-month contracts. That's what we're doing. And I think what I would say to other business owners is your recurrent revenue is what you need to, especially when you're getting the staff in this, that and the other, that's what you need to run your business on. Also, it's showing a commitment to your client and them showing a commitment to you. And you can then offer, you know, a price reduction in theory for like a preferential rate that reduces down your single, like you should be doing this in my view. Like, you know, if a widget once costs £100, maybe if you do a widget once a month for 12 months, it'll cost £95 a time or £90. You know, like there's an incentive to do that, and it's you will take a trade-off in my view that you could then, there's an incentive to take that recurrent revenue, and you could do that and offer your kind of bit sort of being appreciative as well. But with the social media at first, I was like, right, we were doing like minimum contract lengths. And in the end, I went, it needs to be 12 months. We're committing to it. These are the reasons why. And we're committing ourselves to you, you're committing to us, and that's what we're going to do. The other thing that we do is recurrent media packs. So it could be like video, recurrent shoots, stuff. So I've priced it in the way, like obviously in the media, it can be ad hoc. You'll do one shoot and then so we'll book you in 3 months' time. Now that's hard to predict, but I'd say every business needs to be looking for that recurrent revenue and what you're anchoring yourself in. It just makes sense. And then things like Go Cardless, we use that, for example, to handle our direct debits. Because you know the admin that is generated by running the bit. So imagine you're trying to do your job on a day-to-day basis. You're trying to get through the work that you're meant to do, the client work. You're trying to handle the operations as well as a business owner. You're getting asked questions, and then a client hasn't paid the bill as well. So you're trying to like do the work, deal with the staff questions, which is perfectly valid and need to be dealt with, and the client needs chasing up because they haven't paid the bill. You're suddenly going, oh my God, this is a nightmare. Like, this is a real, like, how on earth do I do that? And then you go, oh no, wait, I've looked, there's another client that hasn't paid the bill either. Like, how have I done that? Like, I need to chase them. Hey, can you pay your bill? Oh yeah, what's the question about that? And yeah, I'm doing the project and it's going to be ready. That is literally the sort of point at times where I've been in where you're doing it. So then you're like, I need to empower the staff more so the questions are less and they know the answers. But that sometimes means we need to kind of stress test the business in terms of going, if this broke now, what do you replace? What would you do to fix it? What are our solutions? You've got to take time out of the business in order to do that. So there's a really important thing, I think, for things like that, especially with our stuff when it's all technical. We've just got like leads and plugs and different cameras and mics and what can we plug into what and this, that and the other. So there's a huge part of that. But in truth, anything where recurrent revenue is the best thing we did in terms of getting those longer agreed committed contracts. And I'm always trying to look for those opportunities where we're working in there because A, everyone knows where they stand. B, we can actually then fundamentally plan. So if I say, if you go to me, Adam, I'm going to run an event, what notice do you need to market it effectively? I'm starting at 3 months. Like I if you go, Adam, I'm doing an event next Friday, how many people can you get there? Like, a lot of them already know what they're doing next Friday.
Yeah.
Or some don't, but the partners do. So there's that sort of thing. So when I'm saying like cycles, the longer committed stuff, we can actually do better work. And I explain that to them, going, look, we'll do this, and this is sort of the outline of what we're going to do. But it's about showing value at the end of the day and making sure that people understand what that value is. And again, digitally, a lot of our stuff can go unseen. What you're doing, this, that, and the other. Well, I've been editing for 3 hours, to turn out this TV ad. So, yeah, recurrent revenue, things like Go Cardless in terms of trying to get things on direct debit that handles that for you. Yes, you take the cost. Because everyone, when they're looking at card payments and online systems, I had a chat with a client the other day that they're doing a website for. They're going, but we've got, if we use, say, Stripe, we have to pay card fees. If we use this other platform, there's fees. Is there a way we can do this without fees? And I'm like, you need a merchant, ultimately, to handle your processing. Like, because I went, well, someone we know just put the bank details on the website, and I don't think that's the right idea. And I was like, no, don't do that, And I'm like, at some point, you've got to do it. And I'm like, but it's a percentage.
Yeah.
It's, 1.8% plus 20 pence per thing. I'm like, you won't be sweating that 30 pence a transaction entire. Just get it done. And I think you've got to learn to sweat the big stuff and not the little stuff. So like, I moved our business onto full Microsoft Teams Office 365 package. Our business can go toe to toe with any other business in IT. We're a small business, but people don't invest in their IT. Like, they cobble it together. They have it in Google Drives. They'll have it in Dropboxes. They'll have it. And I come in and I'm going, oh my word, this is a nightmare. So we actually work with Andy upstairs, who I go, right, you need an Andy to sort this out for you. Like, I haven't made it because very easily, and especially in our line of work, they can make it your problem. Like, I can't do this. My computer doesn't work. And there's all these problems. Like, some of the IT issues you can get into are really, like, time sinks. So working with Andy, I'm like, you should really speak to Andy. Yes, you need to pay, I don't know, 14 quid a month for a Teams license per person. But you are then on an even footing with all the top businesses in terms of their IT infrastructure. I'm like, you're small, for me, that is. So I'm like, you've got to stop sweating the small stuff. And sometimes you just got to go, yes, I'm going to spend. Because I know everyone says, watch what you're spending. But your 1.6% or 7% plus 20 pence, that's not going to break your business at the end of the day. It's going to enable you to do the business. And I think if you're spending time like chasing payments and bills, you need to look at those things. I use like online things to read my my receipts. When I get a receipt, scan it in, AI reads the receipt, writes all the details in. I haven't had to sit there and write, I don't know, £20 Argos.
Or employ someone to do it.
Employ someone to do it, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm a big believer in you need to look at solutions like that. And I think employing someone to do it, yes, absolutely. That I think the problem is people go, what's the return on investment on everything? They always want to go, what's the return on investment? The truth is, there's some things like, we've got these mugs here. What's my return on investment on a mug?
Yeah.
Right? But it's a branded mug. It's in the right environment. It fits. It makes sense, yeah? Mm. It looks better than just having random mugs on the table, but it's a small little detail, But what is my return on investment for a mug? I can't attribute it. It's all part of the mix. So what I'd say is don't get too hung up on the return on investment. I think you do need to watch your costs, but you also need to justify
I think there's a difference between, I get what you're saying, because what I was going to say is like, there's a difference between a cost and an investment. So you could class these as an investment, but then people would ask, well, what's the return? Because it's an investment. But so I get what you're saying. It's sometimes there's no quantifiable returns on your investments.
Welcome to marketing.
Yeah.
Like that could be it. Yeah. Coca-Cola. Imagine the execs back in the day come back to the Coca-Cola. We're going to have lorries. Obviously, they're delivering the Coca-Cola, yeah? Okay, but we're going to have lorries with Santas on the side. And they're like, why? Where's the drink? Where's the bottle? Where's the, so sometimes there is that. I think John Lewis, what a fantastic... Sorry, I know we're Christmassy here, but it's on the horizon. The Christmas adverts are starting to break at the time. John Lewis are known for what's their Christmas blockbuster going to be for this year? You know, then Aldi started getting involved. So there's been like an arms race again to do like a sort of advert on it, you know, and it's like, all right, you could go, how many people saw it? But how can you actually track someone that saw a TV advert and went into your shop as a result of that? And that's the problem with some marketing.
Yeah.
You get an idea on CPMs, you know, how many thousand people see it and what that costs you. I get that. And the other thing, some of the things that I've done is, you know, like outdoor advertising. So sponsored a local rugby club. My logo's up there. Visibility. The thing that I love about property, like estate agent lettings, is the boards. Right? I love that. Because for me, you get... part of like mind, brand, you know, peace of mind, or no, not peace of mind. Anyway, whatever it's called, where recall, yeah, because when you're driving around, you see them.
Yeah.
So I was like, right, how do I do that? And I'm like, well, to stick a thing on the billboard down the road is £1,000 a month.
Oh.
Yeah, like that's a lot of money.
Stick it next to it.
Sponsor a local rugby club, or you know, and help them. And actually, it does something meaningful for them. Also, people drive past it; they see it. So then, when I'm in a meeting, I go, HubSpot Media. I go, I've heard of that. Sometimes I'm literally just playing for the I've heard of that. In fact, more recently, the drive I've been doing is the more I've heard of that, because the work and stuff is going. We're building a good profile. Rather than just be a fully transactional kind of, hey, you need social media, you might think it's crazy, but I literally ran a brand awareness campaign over the summer just to get the logo out there. And it was linked to social media and this, that, and the other, but it wasn't like, here's an offer, here's the thing. It was, I just want to get the logo seen.
Interesting.
And do that. Yeah. Like, how many people sponsor football and rugby and sport events? Yeah. You know, how can they attribute a return on investment for their sponsorship? And that's the bit where you get into brand and everything else, and that's where it costs. So I'm like, you know, I've got a branded vehicle now. You hopefully saw it in the car park.
I did, yeah.
Well, that's because I deliberately park it in front of the gate. If that car park space is free, I deliberately park it there every day.
Yes, everyone sees it.
So everyone sees it. That was a conscious choice. There's another van that I keep wrestling with, and he wasn't there today. But I deliberately park it there, and normally I reverse into the spaces, by the way, because I can't see out the back. But because the logo's on the back of the van, I literally pull straight in. So when everyone that comes through that gate sees that logo first thing.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's like how I'm thinking all the time. Because that for me, yes, all right. And the reason why I went for a company vehicle is because we're chucking that much equipment in there. And then like a few months ago, I was up in Inverness doing a job, like we're putting so many miles on my own vehicle. So then you're going, now I've got a problem where I'm actually destroying our family car. What do I do? And I was like, right, I need to take the plunge, because you know, you can claim all the mileage you want at the end of the day, but I'm like, A, it's really hard to fit all the gear in, mic stands, lights, all that. And B, it's destroying my vehicle. And I'm like, this is really difficult. So that's why I went down that route. And then you're like, now I've got to pay for it to be... So what's my return on investment for sticking some logos on? There isn't.
No, it's impossible to quantify that.
There isn't. But people see it, and people do it. And I think, I don't know whether I'm just waffling now, but I think that to me is what also marketing has to do, because if I'm visible and people are seeing me, I can't measure it. You can't measure every element. You can measure campaigns, you can measure socials, you can do this, you know. You can't just measure it. And I'm like, people go, you've done that, but will your van convert? I'm like, no, but it's just someone seeing the logo. Because you never know. You could have one conversation with someone today, and in 4 years' time they go, I'm actually looking for a project. I've heard of you. It's that familiarity, and that's why I love the estate agent signs.
I think it's going back to say it's what you said at the beginning. It's saying something without saying it. It's like we're professional.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah, and I clean. So when I got the van, need to clean now. I clean it every Friday after work. So I will be on my driveway with my brush and my hose pipe, and I'll be scrubbing that van this afternoon. I clean it because I was like, when I'm getting that van, I'm committing to keeping it clean.
Right. Yeah.
Because if you will drive in, it's absolutely, I mean, it's pretty rough on the roads at the moment, but you know, if you drive in and it's an absolute mess, you're not going to be like, well, he looks good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm actively clean my van on a weekly basis because it's got my company details on.
Do you have a preferred sector to work with?
We work with a few key ones. I think we're doing quite a bit with property in terms of media. You know, when I say media, I mean camera work and bits and bobs. Education, we're doing more and more, and we've just run another branding piece with the school to rebrand them. That's just in the offing. That's this week. We're working with quite a few schools, we're working with colleges. We're working with Education Trust over here and Education Trust over in Middlesbrough. So we're starting to do more and more in education. And it's funny how things sort of come about. Some through referral, some is track record, and we've done that. The other thing that we could end up doing with the photography is sort of just random events. You know, there could be an event in the town centre. There's another photographer that works with them on most, but if he's busy, he'll kick it to us and we'll help out. But then we work from everything from, I think, your SME, so solar panel installer in terms of renewable energy, car charging and battery storage, to IT, to we run socials for, you know, like office spaces, like people renting out office spaces, so kind of like the property thing. There to I've gone blank.
So so obviously you're looking at quite a wide range of businesses there.
Yeah.
Have you ever looked at a business or a sector and thought they're doing really well? I'm tempted.
This is something where I wrestle.
Yeah.
This is something where I wrestle.
And just a follow-up question to that, what are those industries and sectors? What do you think? That's a really good model. They're doing really well. I'm tempted to...
Yeah. Education one is one that I'm looking at, if I'm being truthful.
Why?
So a bit of my background, so some of the projects I used to do in schools, and I used to work with schools and do that. I think both my folks were teachers, so I kind of understand, I've got a good understanding there. I've also done a lot of coaching in schools, and, you know, I used to work at a school when I was at university. I was like part of the PE department and stuff. And teaching was one thing I considered in the past, but equally I'm looking at what value can we add to them, what can we bring, and some of the work we could sort them with the website, the branding, school prospectuses. We could do all the photography, we could do all the video. We could literally be a one-stop shop, and we could sort all of that out. The other thing that's happening with schools and trusts is the government, like Department for Education, want schools to, if they're in a small academy trust, to go in part of a bigger education trust. It's like consolidating into larger organisations, if that makes sense. So a lot of school trusts are looking to attract individual academies to say, come and join us. And we've got track record and experience in that. But I think...
So are you thinking about doing that roll up, or are you thinking about niching down your marketing agency to focus on?
This is the tricky thing, because things change and flow, and I think the problem is the business we were born out, we help small businesses do it, and this is sort of my journey. So whereas I suppose if we use property, and obviously you've got to find agents, at the end of the day it was still leasing property, correct? Like lettings. Whereas for us, the businesses are so, like, yes, we're doing marketing. Like, the marketing's the same, but the sector's different. So I saw one this morning. There's a trades van this morning, and they've got, like, you know, I was like, I'm going to bring this up because it grinds my gears. It's like insert trade name at gmail.com. But it's like insert trade name 31 at gmail.com. First of all, I'm like, why are you putting the email address on the van? Second of all, have you actually got a website? And third of all, who's going to... Well, I've remembered it, but, like, obviously I'm not saying it. But, like, in some regard, we could solve that, but the market's not interested in that and doing it. I think, for me, I'd love for us to go deeper on the TV advertising space. I'd love for us to do more of that. That's fun. That's great. And
profitable.
I'd say, because you can quantify it, you can deliver it. I think that the biggest challenge you have in marketing is making sure the brief's on point in terms of when you're working on a client brief, deliverables. You know, I'm always like, what are the deliverables? What are the outcomes? What are the milestones that we need to hit? And I know that there can be deliverables in terms of like number of impressions, for example, but it could be like, you know, we need branding, we need this, we need that. I think for me, the podcasting space is huge, but that just,
I like the podcasting space, I think, from what I've thought about it.
Yeah.
The business model.
Yes. So the idea is you come in, talk the talk, and we walk the walk. I don't know. Like, I'm trying to work out what that rubbish marketing slogan will be. But the idea is, we produce it. So you can walk in, say your thing, and walk out. Yeah. So the two elements really that I'm keen on are, like, I know sector-wise is there, but in terms of product-wise, I'd be keen to double down on the pod plan scenario, the podcasting arrangements, and make sure we do a better job. And also there's like whole new things. So we've got ideas of, like, we did a live stream in here with like a webinar thing, and we had it set up like a living room, and they were talking. We had people on the screen there who were participating in the call, and we can go live with all this gear that we have here. But the other thing is we could do, if people were trying to do online training courses, which I've shot before with the other gear, but we could actually do it in here. So there's all that sort of online streaming stuff that we can take on here. On the marketing side, the social media delivery is a key one for me in terms of, and that's purely from a business sense, recurrent income, longer term agreements.
That's why I like the podcast model better, I think, because you get the same recurring income. You also got to buy the camera equipment, so there's more upfront cost.
Yeah.
Which you could argue is better because it's higher barrier to entry than just your S&M MMA stuff. And it's probably less maintenance than being an SMMA.
Yeah, it's been a learning journey into, because I set this up back in December last year. And at first we were like, oh, we'll do like self-serve, people could do. But then it very quickly became apparent that, and I should have just clocked this from the start, but it's like, people like, no, if you just handle that, we've got it done. But then it's like the editing turnarounds, we had different cameras, we had, how do we sort that, how we're recording it, how we, so these cameras now are set up so we can control them from the desk where Adam is today. We can control those remotely. We could live stream. So imagine a live stream event at a stage. We could literally take this room out, take it into a big room and do a conference. Now, there's nothing to stop us linking this side with like a conference and a broadcast element with doing live social media and event photography. And I suppose that's the problem sometimes I've had with the business is, I've heard about people going, here's what we focus on. But the problem is if someone's like, oh, you could take a picture. I did a wedding the other year, and for years I've been doing photography and they're going, oh, do you do weddings? I'm like, no. But then someone was like, would you do a wedding? I go, well, I don't have anyone in a wedding dress, but I can show you all these photographs of a cow. That I know I can do it. And I delivered it and we had a fantastic day and they had a great time and they were delighted. There is an element of learning when to say no. But I knew those people and there's no reason why I couldn't. It was good actually to stretch your muscles. So for me, the priority, podcasting, basically, social media on that side, podcasting on this side. In terms of sector, that's where it gets tricky because education, in fairness, we're doing a good job with, and it's been great. Part of the problem you have as a small business and trying to push through is at first no one knows about you and they do it. You start working, and I don't know whether you've experienced with this, people that you've spoken to, but it comes a point where it's like, right, what size is the customer that you're working with? Because I could go into pretty much any organisation, create some really good videos, interviewing staff or people or clients, and we could get that out there. The question is who are the size? So I'm very conscious that for me, I'd like the bigger projects that we can sink our teeth into. And almost, do you know what I was coming back to about smaller companies maybe not having the budget for advertising? You're kind of at the mercy of how effective are you if they don't have the marketing budget. So if you can only do so much, I mean, you can make a difference to their business and you can do that, it's great. But the problem is, it's like, well, equally, how do you, where do I position myself in terms of the business, in terms of the higher ticket class? Where are the people with the budget where we can really then, you're talking £150 a day spend. That's that's the sort of ambition.
Yeah.
But you can't just go from starting to get into the big clients. So the education trust thing, that's a build. I mean, that came through the website. Build profile, seen it, they got in touch with us, we went and met them, did the onboarding,
nice,
got through, and away we go. We're fortunate with that. And then someone else gets in touch, and it builds from there.
It's all through the website. Is that the main way you're taking inquiries?
Yeah, ultimately. Yeah, although saying that, what I will say to anyone is if you set up a business and you're on all the social media channels, platforms. Doesn't matter how you're trying to push people. If there is a way to message you through whatever platform, they'll do that. So always check. Always check. Like you can have the best laid plans in terms of funnels and contact points in the world, but someone will just message you on Facebook.
How big are you on funnels?
Could be better, I think, internally. In the sense that, and this is the sense that you spend so much time operationally dealing with what you're dealing with and dealing with getting the things in. We're very fortunate that we tend to get, like the way I always structure our websites is we make sure we're always pushing the contact page. There's no bottleneck. So when I'm building sites and doing that,
funnel mentality, I guess.
But that's a given from the get-go. So we're talking like, so everything will be pushing to the relevant place. What I'm saying is could be better is, do I have differential campaigns for each area of our business running all at one time? No, I don't, in truth. And we could do that. And we could have separate landing pages with separate videos, with separate Facebook pixels, with separate. But I've also got to do the job as well at the end of the day for our clients. Do you see what I'm getting at? So there is a bit of a wrestle. And then when you're dealing with, day-to-day business, obviously you started a few weeks ago, been onboarding and doing that. So you've kind of got to pick your low-hanging fruit, I think is probably a good thing. So you're better off doing one thing properly, doubling down on that, and then picking your next challenge if capacity is an issue.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly why you should be going after people with higher budgets, because you then have a more margin within the business. You can invest in team more and you can focus more on growing it,
Yeah.
So solve rich people problems is something that I've written down in my little black notebook, because you can just have a better business, can't you? It's
hard. You can be fighting over scraps, or I don't want to sound disrespectful, but like we can sort a client out with a website for 500 quid. Okay, my experience is yes, we can do it. Yes, we have done it. Yes, we have helped them. Yes, we've got them online, and yes, it's to be in their budget, and yes, we've took it as seriously as the bigger projects that we work on, because I'm like, I owe them the respect of doing that. Now, is it the most all singing, all dancing website in the world? No, because obviously parameters and budget and this, that, and the other. But we've got a thing called Web Starter, so it does what it says on the tin, gets you started online, and we could do that, and we could support that with emails. But the amount of time it takes, websites are a really tricky thing. Like the amount of time you can lose in a men's back and forward is a real.
They're a hard thing to sell as well. Because if you were to approach someone with a funnel and say, we can get this funnel converting at X and generating X, it's a lot easier to sell than saying, I've got this website and it's just going to show everyone what you do.
Yeah.
But you can't relate that back into pounds and pence.
Everyone should have a website. Like, that's a given. They can just go, I'll go to Wix. Like, great, go to Wix. That's okay. Or go Daddy or whatever. Like, that's fine. I've got no beef with that. I think you're right about, how does it convert and how does it do it? Well, it's somewhere to land, it's somewhere to validate. And again, that you can put analytics in, you can measure and you can see. People kind of want to validate who you are. So I'd say it's important, especially starting out early. If someone goes, you want to speak to Adam, the first thing you can do is check my website out. What is amazing, actually, is what I'll say is we've got, obviously, our phone in there. The amount of calls we get through our phone is interesting. Google Business Listing, people will literally ring their phone, and you'd think those days are gone. Nope. Yeah. They will ring a landline number.
Wonder what they're searching.
Marketing companies is usually ask you. Yeah, so I ask marketing agency sort of thing. So, but the amount of people that will call, inquire, ring, will do that.
That's interesting.
Yeah, but anyway, come back to that. The bigger clients, they're the ones where that's where you've got to go with the track record. That's where you've got to go with the experience, and that's where you've got to be able to get the right connections. The hardest thing you have with bigger organisations is getting to the right people, the right decision makers, to get sat in a room with them. And that's where networking is so important, but doing it in the right way, just like we talked about social media. You don't go in. I had someone just hand me the business card before they told me who they were.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not interested. Like, you're just trying to sell me something. Networking, you just need to meet people and get to know people. It's, you know, and if they're in the market, they'll tell you they're in the market. As long as they know roughly what you do, you know, tell them what you do. Now, the salespeople listen to this, but I go, no, everyone needs to be qualify. My way of qualifying is going, first of all, who are you? Nice to meet you. Second of all, what do you do? They'll go, what do? You tell them and you have a little chat. You'll very quickly get a feeling of whether there's some collaborative work there. What you don't do is burn that relationship, because they might go, oh, actually, you need to speak to Adam. You know, so sometimes I'm playing that just to get a referral. Half the time, I'm just generally interested. I gave up a long time ago trying to go to a networking meeting, because if everyone goes to a networking meeting with the idea of selling them in the room, it's a bit flawed. It's not going to work, is it? If everyone's just there to, I'm here to sell to you, and you're like, yeah, I'm here to sell to you. Where's the genuine discussion sort of thing? So I've always approached that with a healthy kind of get to know people. And I feel okay doing that. Again, fluffy. I appreciate it's fluffy. I appreciate it's, you know, maybe not the hardest thing, but I'd rather build reputation and awareness and then pick things up later. Yes, I'll connect on LinkedIn. Yes, they'll be seeing what I'm sharing because I'm sharing stuff. So it's not that I'll leave it cold. And yes, I'll be commenting and looking at their thing, and I'll see if there's an area there where we can actually help them, not just go, oh, I think you need this thing because I want to sell you it. You know, go, we can help you with that. They go, yes, let's have a chat. You know, it's got to be qualified in terms of that. But yeah, in terms of focus, it's something that I wrestle, because I could say, right, we're going to focus education sector, and then we'll get an inquiry in tomorrow going, can you go and do, I don't know, museum? Like, I'm like, yeah, we could. Like, you know, and will it be interesting on camera? Yes, it would. Because ultimately, all of our stuff is kind of grounded, and the way I talked about the wedding is, the wedding photography is, I can make things look in focus, I can make things look sharp, I can make things look great, I can make things sound good. The subject matter just changes.
Do you ever see yourself get into a position, or do you want to get in a position where you are not on the tools anymore and you were just overseeing?
So this is the challenge I am in the grip of right now. It's not that I want to, it's because I'm aware that I need to. So my role being the business owner and all of that, a lot of people get in touch with me. And half the time, like, you need to speak to Alina. You need to speak like the person who's working on the project. And I don't mind that. It's fine. It is what it is. But what I'm aware of is all the business development work. You know, putting this podcasting thing together it wasn't just like, oh, I'll just do it. You know, at the time, no one's paying you to do it. So it's speculate to accumulate type thing. So what I'm very aware of is if I can get my recurrent packages away, we understand what the deliverables are. So we know exactly, you know, our social media, 5 posts a week, 5 stories, 2 of them are reels, like 3 of them are normal post. We know what we're doing. It rolls off the tongue. We're clear. It's concise for everybody. The more I can do that with our business, the better. The issue I have is almost, whilst I'll still do the photography and videography, I need to figure out that. And I think it's a challenge the industry has in general anyway, because most photographers, videographers end up being freelance, as you know. You know, they end up being freelance and end up doing it. So it's how do you get someone in-house? Now, I think there's a place there to go, well, actually, we can offer a really good opportunity of employment for a photographer who doesn't have to be stressing about being freelance, and they can come and work as employed. But then you've got to cash flow that.
Yeah, that's why I like you're getting back to the model of podcasting, because anyone could essentially set up their own SMA, right? But
yeah,
so that brings the challenge of it's hard to recruit for that role. Same with a videographer or a photographer. But if you have a podcast studio, that employee would have to spend tens of thousands of pounds to get it in this position. So then that role becomes easier to hire for. Yeah. Which then becomes a better business.
Yeah, you're solving a solution. So the industry has a challenge with that. So I also enjoy the photography and videography. Like, it's good. It gets me out away from a computer. But I am the business, essentially, the way I am is the business development manager. If I need this to truly succeed, you know, I had to go back to when I had to choose whether I was going to do it full time or I wasn't. And I was like, I don't. Now I'm like,
okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, so now the way I look at it is the business needs to run without me here. Yeah? Yeah. I'm like, to be... You know, what's the sort, and this is what I mean. Business can be whatever it was. Like, and don't take this personally behind the I could shrink the business back down and just be Adam.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I'm not, but I could, right? I could. It can be whatever I sort of dictate. Now that wouldn't be much fun because
The itch.
No, too many problems. But what I'm like is I need to push on. I need to get it to the point where I'm out of the business, and I've come. I'm now taking holidays. It's an amazing thing, a holiday. I mean, the business plan for the last 2 years was take a holiday, have a holiday, and be like left alone. Yes, I've still got to pay everybody and do that. I'm still on that side, but it's scaling the systems. We need growth. We need some growth. I need another body. I need to offload some of the operations, and I need to become essentially the CEO of the company. Is kind of how I see it.
You said 2 words. You said truly succeed. If I want this business to truly succeed, what is that to you?
I want to feel like I've done it proper, if that in simple terms. So going back to when I'd been called an entrepreneur when I'd just set up, which I thought it was lovely. It's seen as a compliment. It's this, that, and the other. In truth, you're just dealing with loads of bedlam and craziness. But for me, to truly succeed, what would I define success? As a business owner, yes, delivering projects, looking after clients, that's non-negotiable. If I can truly succeed, is I've built a successful businesses that offers meaningful employment to people, that is not solely reliant on me to deliver, and it isn't currently solely reliant on me to deliver the work for the clients, but meaningful employment, because I want to offer employment opportunities for people in our field and in our industry. I see a lot of students doing media at college. Where do they go after that? And I'm like, well, this is how we can connect that up. That's a little personal ambition, but meaningful opportunity, regionally known, like successfully regionally known in the next 5 years. And you might say that's conservative, but
I think it's individual,
that feels right to me.
Yeah, I really like the meaningful employment one. I really like the answer.
Now, how do you attribute like that? But I'm like, well, if I could truly offer a business that works without me, actually, that offers meaningful employment, I feel I'm playing my bit in society, I'm employing people, work opportunities, that feels good for me to do. That gives me, it's not just about me at the end of the day, that is, and it needs to be profitable. And basically I'd love to be able to go, tell you what, I get back into my cycling, I'm going cycling or whatever, whatever I'm doing. And I can take breaks every now from the business. Because I'll be honest, 8 years, you get tired. You get tired. I love it, but it's exhausting at times. Just been battling cold the last few weeks, and I couldn't take a day off because I was recruiting and I had someone leaving and I had to do various client jobs, and I didn't. And on Wednesday, actually, was meant to be at an event. I ended up going, I can't do the event, and I spent the day at home on the sofa, not on my phone, watching movies. It's brilliant, and I feel better for it.
So I said, so the next question I was going to ask was, when you get to that truly successful point, what does your day-to-day look like? And I think you answered that. You may want to answer it a bit further out, but I think it means taking time for yourself and getting into cycling again and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Business-wise, what does that look like day-to-day? What would your role be doing day-to-day?
Do you know what? I'd love the opportunity. I was thinking about this on the way in, actually. I was thinking about... So I started playing rugby again. Can I go left field for a second? So I started playing rugby again 2 years ago. And I play for the mighty Darlington second team. Yes, second team. And I love it. I had 14 years away from rugby. And it was after lockdown 2 or 3 years ago. And there was a Vets game on. And I went to my wife and my mum. I was like, I'm going to play. They went, no, you're not. Like, you can't. Anyway, I was like, no, I'm going to do a month's training. It was after Christmas. Everything happens after Christmas. It's a month's training. And I was like, I'll go to training so I don't just have a heart attack and die. I'll actually train into it and do it. And I played the Vets game, and I'm stood there before it kicked off going, what am I doing? And it made me think about business, actually. And I played last Saturday. I'm still playing now. And I love it. And we've built a really cool second team where we're actually supporting the youngsters that are leaving the junior section. They might play with us for a bit, there's us old guys, and then we'll support them into the first team, and it's great to see them succeeding and doing it. And for me, it was just having a bit of team sport again. I used to do triathlon. I've just booked in for another triathlon next year, so I've got literally this week. So I've got my work cut out for me for that, to get triathlon fit again. But I'm starting to get some ambition again, and like for myself, I've been really kind of focused on the business, really quite heavily. But the rugby thing, perfect example and case in point on business, and what I just wanted to maybe draw on today is playing last week. The ball, I'm stood at the front of where you receive the ball, sort of thing, kick-off. Team kick-off last week, the ball goes sky high over my head. I've got 8 forwards, the big lads, running at me. The ball's got to go 10 metres. I'm stood on the 10-metre line. The guy had nailed the kick. And it's coming down on me, and I'm stood there looking at it going, I have to catch this ball. I have to catch this ball knowing full well that I've got 8 lads running at me at full sprint, and I know that I'm not going to have time to do anything once I've caught the ball other than get absolutely steamrolled. And I likened that to business. But I was like, for my team, I'm going to catch the ball, and I'm going to do it. Ball comes down. I caught it. Tick. Did I get steamrolled? Yeah, 3 of them absolutely belted me, push you into the floor. But I held onto that ball and I did it. And it might sound a bit left field in terms of what business has been, but that's how it felt at times. Sometimes you've got to just take it, and you're doing it for either your clients, like if you're helping them, and you know. And I think the good thing for me is like rugby and sport in general has done that. What I'd like to look at is, so I'm playing again this weekend. So why do I do it? Why am I happy standing there waiting to catch this ball? No, full well that I'm about to. And I happened again a few weeks ago. Again, I nailed the kick. I'm like, why am I stood at the front? Why do I have to stand here? And I have to catch it. I'm the old guy, or one of the old guys. Like, we have to catch it. We're showing the young lads like, put your body on the line. And the truth is like I do treat the same. Rugby's taught me a lot of values growing up, and it's like I'll put myself on the line to do that. But what I need to do is not do it at the detriment of myself, is what I've learned in business. And I think we're very easy in business to potentially do it at the detriment of yourself, drive yourself into the ground. And I need to get better at not doing that. But what does that look for? Well, to me, business is just like a sport, in the sense that you can look at it as just like a sport. I'm not saying it is a sport, but it's like a sport. It's competitive. It requires team working. It requires building relationships, rapport, people. Frankly, it's just interesting. If I was, I don't want to go in and do the same job every day and this, that, and the other. I love the variability. So what would I do if I got the business to that point? I'd probably look for other business like yourself. Like, it's a weird, sick game that we all play. So I'd probably look to that. I mean, I also involve myself like with the rugby club as a non-executive board member, so I don't get paid. But I've just helped them recruit for staff. And I spend a lot of time giving back to the rugby club. So that for me matters, giving back, supporting people, like playing my bit in society. But I think for me, what I look at is other business opportunities and what I can do. I think for me, if I can build the business successfully so it can stand on its own 2 feet, I feel a duty to anyway, because I want to offer safe employment for people, or safer, you can never guarantee safety, but safer, redundant, put redundancies in place where you shouldn't have to actually make physical redundancies. You've got plans where you can do that, and resilience is the word I'm looking for. So what would my day look like? Well, it depends on what the opportunities are out there and what the conversations are going on. I would, speaking, talking, as everyone's listened to me dribble on today, but that would be something of interest, talking, and whether that could be, whether it's marketing or whether it's business or whether, I suppose it's taking a look out there and seeing what opportunities are available in time. And I suppose it's nice for me not to define that yet, but I know it'd be other things, and probably taking up the true mantle of what I feel is a true entrepreneur. Now, I can maybe say that because I started DJing on the side a few years ago for a bit of fun, but I DJ weddings and things like that, and that was just a little bit extra, a little bit something different. I kind of fell into it, didn't mean to, but that was out of COVID, doing live streaming kids DJ disco parties, and then a mate who runs a DJ company got stuck, no DJ. Can you come and cover for me? So I went and covered for him, and there we go. So I suppose I've already started on that journey of, looking at the podcast studio, looking at doing a bit of DJing. It's nothing crazy, but it's just some fun. I just want to enjoy it. In truth, I just want to enjoy it. And I enjoy business. I enjoy the relationships that you build. And I think for me, the challenge with HubSpoke and building that is I want it to be, like I said, providing those opportunities, become, I suppose, personally an asset. It's probably the nice word to do. And then I can decide what I want to do with that when the time's right. Because I think, I know you've had people on about business acquisitions, this and the other. You've got to think long game as well. And I was talking to people, because it's like, you kind of set up these things, and if you do last 5 years, but it's like at some point, my involvement has to end with HubSpoke. Now, that could be when I die, when I'm an old man. That could be, yeah, touch wood. That could be then. That could be when I retire. That could have been. So at some point, and this is the other bit about acquisition, you think about acquisitions in terms of like, how do you sell out? How do you sell and move on? But in truth, we all need to think about that, because what is the long-term picture? You can't just have a business that runs at some point. If you're the founder of the business, at some point, whether life dictates it or whether you've got to have an idea on what happens then. What is that? What do you want that to be? Do you just fold it down? Do you sell on? Well, I want to.
It's a grave shame, isn't it, to just fold the business down?
Do you see what I'm saying? So I'll have to make those plans, to see what I can do. But essentially, yes, an asset. I mean, I've worked hard on it, so I need something there. But I don't know what the future holds in terms of longer term plans. I just know that that's what I want to do in the next 5 years, and I think that that's probably a good place to be.
I think a saying that I like is business owners should be all building a commercially profitable enterprise which works without us.
Yep.
Even if we have no intention of selling it. We should run it as if we are going to sell it.
And that's how I want it. Yeah.
Because that then gives us the discipline to build a better business, a more sustainable business, and a more actually enjoyable business.
Yeah. And then when I sit down and go, have I succeeded in business? The answer would be yes. Because I feel I've, completed it.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to... So just finally then, Adam, if you could give anyone, business owner, a free piece of advice before we finish, what would it be?
Business owner.
It could be on life or business, actually.
No, well, I'd say you need to figure out your work-life balance. And it's not a case of what somebody tells you it should be. It's what you feel comfortable with, in my view. For example, I've got a rule where I do not work past 8 o'clock in the evening. And that's a rule I brought in myself, because I found that if I worked past 8 o'clock in the evening, I don't sleep very well. Like, my brain's still wired and done it. So I've got things like my phone goes on charge at the other end of the house. It's not next to my bed. It's not the first thing I look at in the morning, because believe me, I've had messages at 5 o'clock in the morning. Not that they'd ring or anything, but that'd be the first thing I saw. So protect yourself, look after yourself, put measures in place. My phone goes on charge, other end of the house. Buy yourself an alarm clock, one of those old-fashioned things that we used to use before phones. I literally have an alarm clock, right? Embrace old technologies, things like old in air quotes. Just be mindful. Set your parameters of what works for you. Nothing wrong with flexible work and having to do it, and it is rough with the smooth. And I constantly wrestle with the whole, when I go on holiday, I've still got to do stuff. But you can make it right, but you've got to find out the way. I think what you need to do is define what success is for you and your business. I mean, if I'm being honest, I've set myself some quite high targets there that I choose to work to. But I've chosen it. Then what I'd say is look internally. Look at who your customers are. And I know you're saying which sector you're going to bottom. And when the problem is we work with a few and it's different thing, and we're not there. We're not that company yet. We may well be in the future, or we may have different departments. Who knows? But understand what your product is, understand what you do, but then map out from your customer's point of view how they access it, they do it, what their experience is. Experience is one of the most important things. Yeah. And coming back to your first thing, what's marketing? Well, it can all be well and good if you're doing all the fancy stuff, but if what I call the magic moment, you actually get to meet the person and they're not looking great and knackered and not happy and not smiling and this, that and the other, and like your mugs are chipped and broken. That's marketing as well. So I'd say get your foundations absolutely rock solid in terms of what you do. Lead your business with honesty. And if you can't do something or you don't know how to do it, say it to the client, because there's nothing worse than over-promising and not ever delivering against that. But get your foundations right. How people inquire, what your product looks like, what the contact points are, how they interact with it, what's the life cycle. And then what I'd say is put a system in place that gets it all out your head. That's the final one. And I learnt this lesson when my mum went, what are you working on at the moment? I went, I know it all. She went, yeah, but I can't see it. So I started slapping it all on Post-it notes. We had a table full of Post-it notes. And she went, this is too much to be in your head. And I went, never thought of it like that. Excel sheets, CRM systems, something. Some kind of record, a notepad, if that's what you need to do. Get it out your head. And if you're looking to expand and do it with others, it becomes all the more important to get things out of your head. Because you might think someone knows something, especially a staff member, and they don't. So if you do take on staff, policies, procedures, instructions, like get them to work up documents. We've literally got a folder next door which itemises how to run the podcast studio, for example. All those things in place. What we do with a piece of footage, we've got to back it up. Support everything with good IT after that. Sorry, I've rattled on a bit, but you get the idea. Yeah. It's the foundation. Get the foundation of your business right. And then just go for it and try and enjoy it, because it is enjoyable. It can be hard work, and then learn to enjoy your time off.
So if people want help with their marketing, where can they go to?
Yep, hubspokemedia.co.uk, social media, pretty much any of the platforms, HubSpoke Media. We're on all of them, really, apart from Pinterest. Does anyone use Pinterest? Some people do. But yeah, so hubspokemedia.co.uk if you want to know more information, and yeah, you can get in touch with us there.
Thanks so much for coming on, mate.
Thank you for having me. I hope that's been all right.
Yeah.